when we walked off the field from that Elite Eight loss, we're a two-time champion team. Made an Elite Eight run, and I got 13 starters coming back, and I felt great about it. And I had my chest, and I walked off the field with my chest and my head held high. 2 weeks later, I had 17 guys in the portal.
What's going on, HBCU Game Day family? This is Stephen J. Gaither, and you are watching Verified Sources with SJG. Verified Sources is a platform where I speak to some of the movers and shakers in the college athletic world. And today I've got a special treat for you. Not only is this gentleman a head football coach, he's a two-time winning head football coach. He is also a doctor and he is an author. He just wrote his second book. It's called Play for 11 Leadership. And if that didn't give you the hint, you should already know who our guest is today. He is none other than Dr. Alvin Parker, the head coach at Virginia Union University. Head coach of Virginia Union University. Coach Parker, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing well. Appreciate you inviting me on.
Gotcha. It's always great when we have a doctor in the house. So, it's definitely. I really wanted to get you on here. For some reason, somebody, you can't say this, but I'll say this. Some geniuses decided to have the CIAA media day the same day as the SWAC media day. And even though I'm much closer to Durham, I may not be there. So I may be going home to Alabama.
Come on, man. Come on.
But you will be taken care of by the HBCU Game Day family. We will be well represented. It's no longer just me. I have spawned myself several times over. But yeah, so just wanted to talk to you because you got a lot of things going on. It's summertime, which is usually for people on the outside, you think kind of slow time for in college athletics, especially football coaches with, camp over a month away for you guys at Division II. But you've been busy, again, for in between the last time we saw you winning the CIAA championship again and winning playoff games as well. We'll talk about that. You also had the time to write a book. So tell everybody about the book and how that came about and what it's about a little bit.
Well, it's always hard to find time. So it took me a little while to write this book. This is my second one. My first book took me 5 years. And I tell people all the time, the amount of time wasn't 5 years, just when a little bit of times here and there that I got a chance to work on it. I was an assistant coach at that point. I published that one in 2014. I was assistant coach at Elizabeth City at the time. So that was my first one. Well, when I got done with that one, I felt like I was out of the book writing business. I said, yeah, this kind of it, because I didn't want to take another 5 years to do it. So, but then I felt like I had something that people probably wanted to hear now. With us kind of winning back-to-back championships and doing it in the landscape of college football right now. I think, people want to hear about leadership. That's kind of tried and true, and talking about it. Some things might change, but I think some things that, that I've done since I've been at Virginia Union as the head coach in the leadership role, I think those things are something that people want to hear. So it kind of spawned that. So this one took about 2 years. So definitely better on that aspect of things, but it was kind of that for me. And I got a little bit of time. I made a deadline, and I tried to stick to it. And like all great journalists, so I stuck to it and I made it. And it's kind of my passion. I think a lot of people don't know it, but undergrad I was a journalism mass communications major. Okay. So writing was always kind of my thing, and writing, producing, all those type of things like that was always something that I had a passion for. Football just probably was a little bigger passion. But I think people get to see it in these forms now when I write and put out books, articles, and things like that.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I do watch a show from during the season, the show you guys do with Sean Robertson over there. He's a VSU grad, but we'll show him some love. We'll see CIAA love. I caught him at
my guy.
Yeah. He's a good dude. So shout out to him. You guys he does a great job with that show that you guys do. Just talk to us. So, again, give everybody the name of the book, where they can get it. And I also understand you got an event coming up this week. We'll talk a little bit more on the back end, but just give everybody a little bit more about the book.
I mean, the easiest way is always, I guess Amazon. but because it's on Amazon. Both my books are on Amazon. Kindle, Amazon. This one is on Apple Books. You know, but by the time they get all their fees and they pay me, I don't know what I make. So it's always easy to get it directly from the source. So I have it. I'm not, and I ship them out as well. So, but it's tough to beat that huge marketplace that those companies provide. So, and also I'll be doing a book signing for this event this Saturday in Richmond at the Lions Den. That's one of our big time sponsors here for VU football.
Yeah, man, it's always great to have a sponsor. And it seems like for sure that you have you guys have really mastered that and build and goes into that building of the program. And this and the new book is Play for 11 as
Yeah,
well.
Play for 11 leadership.
Right.
Kind of talks a little bit, like I said, about a little bit about the journey. A small bit about the journey, but just more about, I guess, the leadership portion of some things that you probably have to do that I think are efficient, that I think can guide you, no matter what, if it's in sports, business, education, anybody that's kind of moving groups or anybody that's trying to lead people. A lot of times I think, you look at these things, you might read some of these big books. I think I had something that people just wanted to hear and people want to see because, and again, my focus is, being the best coach I can be, making sure that, I'm able to deliver quality for those young men on a daily basis. But in the same times that I got to deliver quality for staff. I got to deliver quality to a whole department. I got to deliver quality, to people outside of the department. And I think that takes a certain level and type of leadership. So, in doing that and managing the things that I've managed while doing this, we've had some success on a bunch of fronts. And, when you have some success, I think, when you look around and everybody else that's putting these things out, I want to know why they're having success. So I figure people want to know why I was having some success in doing the things we were doing here as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I know for me, you talk about, you said this one took you 2 years. I mean, you have been busy the last 2 years. Obviously, winning the championship. So I don't know, man. Maybe you need to stay on the book, write and grind. Maybe you need to stay on the book, write and grind for a while. Because the last, 2 years, 23 and 24, you guys have, just really taking off. I know, as journalists covering this thing, football wise, the CIAA every year, since you got there, you guys have been consistently a winning program, never had a losing record, consistently been there. But, for a while, it was the VSUs and the Buoys in the North. And it seemed like every year, the media, we pick up on narratives. So every year it was like, okay, Virginia Union, when are they? They look good, but we've seen this before. What is it about, even in 2022, when you guys beat Valdosta State, you're off to a really great start, and then you just happen to trip up against Jawan. What did those years teach you that have helped propel you to where the last 2 years you guys have been able to get over the hump of not only in the CIAA but also in the playoffs as well?
I think it's just been, just you got to come ready to work every day. And I tell the guys all the time, it's about the work. When you look at it, I think we're 51 and 15 since I've arrived at Virginia Union. So some people might define that as success, but like you said before, up until the 23 season, we didn't have a banner to hang for any of that. So only thing you can walk around and say, I can stick my chest out and say, we're a winning program, but you can never say that you were a champion. So we recruited the same way, we did everything. We didn't change it up. And I think that's the portion of the leadership that you got to see, that some people say, what, I'm gonna change just for the sake of change because we didn't necessarily hit the goal this year. We stayed on that same goal. We stayed on that same mission, and we just kind of kept chipping away at it. And we played against some good teams then. That 18, 19, and 21 Bowie team were national competitors. Coach Wilson did up there was something that I'm trying to mirror a lot of the times. But but in the format of things, how they are now, in terms of us going from top to bottom of the conference, you look back at some of those years. If we were doing things like we were doing it now, our only loss of those years were Bowie.
Hmm.
So it would have been us and Bowie in the championship in some of those years. But the format was the format as to what it is then versus what it is now. And we just could not get out of the North. So now what it is now, you kind of play it all through. So it's kind of what it is. But we played against some great teams back then, but we just kept chipping away and kept chipping away till we could look up. We finished regular season 9-1 and 22, but dropped a big one, and that big one cost us. So you look back and you get better from that. You get into 23, and you drop one early, but you make it on through, and you get to the chance to get to the championship and win. You get to the playoffs, don't make any noise again. You know, in the next year, you kind of kept chipping away. So every year got a little better and a little better and a little better. So I don't know what this year's gonna hold. Don't ask me that. but
Right, right.
but definitely, just kind of kept chipping away. We didn't change a lot. We kept coaching them the same way, kept teaching them the same way, and kept moving the program the same way.
As you say, you guys sit here now, defending champions back to back. The target is squarely on your back. These next, for the last couple years. Um, when we, so let's just talk. Let's just be honest. So, football now more than ever is a business, not only for the coaches but also the players. So let's go with you. Let's start with you. When you are a winning coach, and you win in the CIAA, and then you go on and win, playoff games. Though, we've seen from the Bill Hayeses to the Pete Richardsons to, even I know that your guy died, he's a little bit different because he Hampton, kind of, smoothed in from the CIAA to the D2. But throughout history, we've seen those guys in. We also had a guy like Maynard and Wilson. They won a couple championships and slid to the next level. Obviously, this year with the success that you had, your name was there in a lot of circles, and a lot of people thought, maybe you may not be back. I'm sure they're happy to have you back there at VUU in Richmond. But for you as a coach, when you have those opportunities, what was the off season like for you? Because I heard your name in a couple coaching situations. I heard some folks were interested in you. What was it like for you? And was there ever any temptation for you to kind of seek that the next level, because everybody seems like that's always what they're looking for?
I mean, it was a busy off season. I can't say how enjoyable it was, but it was busy, in terms of some of the things that were going on. But I work for a great president and a great vice president. Dr. Lucas and Coach Taylor are I think have prepared me for if it's something new for me, or if it's another opportunity for me. Working for those two guys have been something that's been great. So kind of having a conversation with them, when these things do come up, having those type of people, you working for those type of people, they push you out the door almost all the time if they feel like it's a better opportunity, or if it's an opportunity that's going to make, something better for you and your family and progress you in your career. And I'm grateful to work for guys like that, because you know what? A lot of people got horror stories when it come to things like that. So, I'm just fortunate in that aspect to make sure that I'm working for guys that are great, that are giving me all the tools and everything I need to be successful where I am, and that are preparing me for when that call does come, or when I do make that, decision to say, you know what, hey man, let's kind of play for 11 somewhere else. I think, they've supported me enough to help me make that decision and help me make the right decision when it comes to that. So there's no pressure. I'm comfortable. Like I said, I work for a great university. It's my university, but it's going to come a point in time where, what, that decision is probably going to have to be made. One way or another. But right now, I'm just riding the wave and trying to win another championship.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna have to ask you, were you pursued at all? Did you get some calls? You had to have gotten some calls.
Yeah, like I said, it was extremely busy. Um, I was up and down. I was involved in a couple searches, to be honest, and but just you know, it found its way for me to still be at Virginia Union. And like I said, I'm just thankful. But I was involved heavily in some searches, and I met a lot of good people and talked to a lot of good programs, and I wish those guys much success this year. But again, like I said, I got to focus on what's kind of happening at Virginia Union, but a busy off season, Steve. Very, very busy.
Okay, okay. All right. And we're talking, you talk about it, you guys, that is your alma mater, that is home. Do you think it makes it that much harder? Does it mean that a school would have to do that much more to get you to move from there? Because it does seem like from the outside looking in, you guys do have a, it is a very tight knit community and familial type of group.
I mean, I wouldn't say, to that level. I think that, of course, with anything, the business has to be right. The feeling has to be right. It has to be something that's going to be great, not just for me. When you're building a team, you got to make sure it's going to benefit everybody. Same thing is going to have to benefit my family. So I think Virginia Union has prepared me. When I thought I was making a 4-year commitment. It's 30 years. You're looking up, and I made a 30-year commitment. So they prepared me for if I'm going to be there to kind of make sure I elevate the university there, or if I have to be somewhere else, elevating that university. I think as long as I get an opportunity to coach and to do this thing at the highest level and be able to make some change in a bunch of young men's life and a bunch of staff members' life and everybody kind of involved, then I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, not that I'm trying to push you out of here. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Not that
no.
I'm trying to push you
It's the
out of
nature,
here.
man. It's the nature of the business. And I
But
think
it,
everybody understands it, man. It's college football is a business now. And I tell everybody, it's probably the greatest profession in the world, but it's probably one of the worst businesses in the world. So however you look at it, you got to make the best of it. So again, I'm happy where I'm at. Things have happened. I think that's because of the success of the team. Some things we've done and the hard work the staff has put in that you're able to get those calls and those type of interests from other people that feel like what you're ready to kind of lead us the way that you're leading Virginia Union.
yeah, when you talk about the business of college athletics, today is July 2nd, Wednesday, as we're taping this, and July 1st, it became standard practice now that up at the Division I level that schools can pay their athletes directly. No more, it doesn't have to necessarily be through a collective, and it could just be straight up here, cash on the table. Obviously, a little bit different at the Division II level, but I look at your program, and I look at, you had guys that are now. A couple of them are actually playing down the road from me in Winston-Salem here at Wake Forest. You had your wide receiver Vic, and you got one of the kids up at West Virginia as well. I guess just how quickly have these changes impacted what you guys do, and did you anticipate that it would happen, that it would impact you so quickly?
Definitely not so quickly, Steve. Definitely not. When we walked off the field from that Elite Eight loss to Valdosta, it was, I felt bad because I felt like, we wanted to win. We wanted to kind of keep the season going,
Right.
but I didn't feel as bad because I looked around and I said, you know what, we're a 2-time champion team. Made an Elite Eight run, and I got 13 starters coming back, and I felt great about it. And I had my chest, and I walked off the field with my chest and my head held high. 2 weeks later, I had 17 guys in the portal. you know. So, walking off from that with that feeling, and it changes. The landscape changed. It can change just that quick. We're not talking about years. We're talking about days and weeks.
Right.
That it's changed. In terms of what the roster looks like. So at that point now, we go from a player development staff, to a roster management type staff. Because you got that many guys in the portal, and at first I was a little like, "Ooh, wow, God, wow, why is this happening?" But then, I kind of looked back and I said, "You know what? I promised every guy when they came to Virginia Union, I promised all of them, you'll leave here better than you were when you came." So when guys come in and they're getting huge collectors, huge contracts, money that they're not going to get from anywhere else that I can't provide them, you know what? I kept my promise. My promise was to make sure you left here in a better situation than you were. So when you say, guys like Reginald Vick, guys like William Davis, guys like Justin Royez, and just the number of guys that moved on up to the Division I level, I was extremely happy for those guys, and it just made sure we had to kind of get back to work to replace those guys. But in terms of just putting those guys in a better situation, we gave them the platform. They came here and they showed off. Other people saw them and they got swooped up. So, you look at it, and all those stars on defense gone. A few of the big names on offense gone. But I think, we've done a good enough job of making sure the roster always looked a certain way that, it was kind of like who's up next. So I feel pretty good about that. The who's up next mentality, because the landscape of college football is totally different. People say it wasn't like it was when I was back then. No, and it wasn't what it was like it was last year.
Right.
So it's not even back then anymore. It's last year. So and we've just tried to stay with the trends and make sure we do things to not just be player developmental coach, but to be guys who can manage rosters and make sure we got enough talent on the roster that we can compete year in and year out.
Coming, this will be the 14th season for HBCU Game Day football wise. And I've been doing this half my life now, 20 years. So, but coming into last year, and people were talking about, just to the different HBCU media days, everybody was talking about, oh yeah, well, kind of predicting who was going to win. But I was like, I don't even know half these kids, especially the MEAC and the SWAC. I was like, I don't even know who half these kids are. So I can't really tell you. I feel like everybody's guessing.
Absolutely.
And I think that you guys were probably the one team that I felt like, okay, I wasn't guessing as much. You had Jada, you had Isaac, you had some of those folks who had made an impact for you guys the previous season. I was pretty I was pretty astonished that you guys were able to keep all of them last year for the most part. Given the success that you had, and as quickly as this landscape changes, I guess that makes you have to, even though again, as you said, you're happy for those guys to be able to put themselves in those situations. I guess that makes you have to really appreciate a guy like Jada Byers and a guy like
Oh,
Isaac Anderson, who I'm sure they probably could have left previously for they probably had other options on the table as well. Just talk about a little bit about having guys like that, because I felt like I went to the playoff game that you guys had at 2022, and against Wingate, and that was a tough loss. And then to see you guys in 2024 go to their place and take it to them, and then continue on, I just thought that was like that's the natural progression of a team. And you're probably not going to see that a lot anymore in a lot of places. But just talk again about just being able to keep the guys as long as you did for some of those guys and those teams that you guys have had.
yeah, we did a great job of just, of keeping those guys hungry to a certain extent. Like those guys, they left here, they leave here with three playoff runs, two championships. And I think the difference was when we left at the landscape changed, with NIL and everything kind of getting bigger and bigger and larger every year, that, it wasn't as large as it was the year before. So those guys walked out of Kutztown after we lost, with next year we're gonna make a national run. They walked out of there with that, and I don't know what the mindset, was, kind of this year, because the landscape had changed so much. Now it was to the point, what, my resume is kind of built up, I can kind of go get the bag, and again, I don't, the goals might have changed simply because of that, because it's what it is, and if I can take care of my family and do some different things right now with being a college student athlete, then I mean, I don't know if I would advise my son to do anything different. So it was kind of that, rather than to say, what, I'm gonna stay and make a national championship run. And I think those guys the year before, all of them dedicated themselves to stay and make a national championship run. And they said it. They said it, on the way back from Pennsylvania, we're gonna make a run next year because we got this. And lo and behold, we made a run. But that wasn't, I don't know if that was the difference, in what this year kind of brought. So being able to keep those guys for as long as we did, I don't know if that can ever happen at, any other program that's been spotlighted or been showcased as much as our program has. We're playing on TV 4 or 5 times a year.
Right.
Um, you know, you get a lot of pub with these guys because they're putting up great numbers and things like this. It's easy for somebody to just it's not one, college football coach that I've talked to on any division that has not asked me about Jada Byers. You know, um, he could have left and played anywhere in the country, but he chose to stay and play for me at Virginia Union. So you know what? Hats off to him, man. And I'm glad he's getting the opportunity he's getting right now to perform on a professional level.
Yeah, no, I think really great points there. Again, you talk about the offensive, the offensive stats you guys have put up. You're also in not only, and this is something we're a little bit more used to, not only your team, your players getting opportunities, but you also have had some of your staff go on and get different opportunities as well. I don't know, man. It seems like 365 the day job, as far as not only, keeping an eye on guys that you got players wise, and keeping and also keeping that pipeline going, but also with coaches as well. Just talk about again, having to, shuffle your staff, pretty, that's the other part of success, is shuffling your staff and things like that.
Absolutely. We've had some guys to kind of, make some moves that have been great moves for them. Coach Brown comes back as our third offensive coordinator in 3 years, almost 4 years, I'm sorry. So them guys are going getting great opportunities. And if you could take this football thing and make a better way for your family and kind of poise yourself to be something great and move along the ladder, I'm glad I got a chance to help you to do that. The guys, who work with us, Coach Bankston, he did a great job. He's at South Dakota State. Before him, Coach Marita did a great job. He's at Lehigh. I lost a couple offensive line coaches. Coach Fink did a heck of a job for us last year. He's at Boston College this year. Coach Brown ended up coming back to us as our offensive coordinator. In terms of kind of how things go, I've lost a few. But I think when you look at it, the culture of the program is still embedded. And those guys know that. They help build a culture with me. So in terms of how that might roll, that when people who show up, they know what it is. They know what to expect. It's always easier a little bit when guys kind of know what to expect. So showing up, those guys know what to expect. So we've hired two good coaches on offense, to help us try to make another run. Coach Hobbs, um, and Coach Brown came back. So you know what, we're looking forward to kind of getting this thing going. Defensive staff has been pretty intact for the last few years. So we're looking to try to do that, use that to make another run.
Yeah, and then lastly, we'll just briefly touch on the CIAA. You guys have won the championship the last couple of years. You look at the guys you played down the road at VSU. You got Coach Fraser, and then you've also got Coach down there, Johnson C. Smith. You got Coach doing his thing as well. I look at all three of you guys, and two things stick out to me. Well, for you. I know, and your counterpart over at JCSU, you guys are alumni, but the three of those coaches, you guys are all offensive guys. And I think I don't know if you've been in the league long enough now to see. I know you coach with Coach Tillery,
Hello.
and so many of those guys. It seems like for a long time, a lot of the CIAA schools were going with defensive-minded head coaches, and now it seems like, I mean, not to say that obviously you got to coach the whole game, but you're an offensive guy. Those guys are offensive guys. Where do you see this? Do you see this league going, as far as just style of play, pace, and do you think am I off there, or you kind of seeing a change in the guard, or is it kind of that struggle? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the numbers will kind of tell you exactly what it is, Steve. Just like you just said, if you look back, maybe 8 years or so ago, you know what, you'll look and see, probably about three CIAA defenses in the top total defenses. Three to four, sometimes even five. In the top in total defense, because that's kind of what this thing kind of was built around. Now you look at it now, it's kind of the opposite. You'll see three to four in the tops in offense. And again, whatever that head coach's mindset is, kind of, you're gonna build your team a little bit that way. So when I worked for Coach Tiller, he was a defensive minded guy. He didn't want to know what he just wanted you to score points, you know. But you know what? When it was came time to build that roster and to do something, if it was one scholarship left and it was a defensive guy and an offensive guy out there, I knew who was getting that scholarship. It was a defensive guy, kind of with that. But in terms of just kind of how it moves now, I think what, we're getting some better athletes that are able to do some things, and we got a lot of good quarterback play in the league right now that probably was a gap in that maybe a little bit. We've had some greats in this league, but I think we're doing it at an all-time high right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, no doubt. Well, Coach, I definitely appreciate you for hopping on. Again, again, make sure you plug the book. Let everybody know where they can catch you this weekend. And yeah, and then we'll kind of go from there.
All right, well, definitely. Like you said, we had the Lions Den this weekend, right here in Richmond. Is one of my favorite spots. It's a nice spot. Just look it up. If you haven't heard about it, it's a nice spot. We're gonna do this thing from 1 to 3 o'clock on Saturday. We're gonna talk. Got some great food there. Great assortment of cigars. If you are a smoker, if you're not, it's still a good place to hang out at. If you're not, we'll have the books on hand. We'll talk. I'll sign every one of them, and I think it's gonna be a great time. So, looking forward to that.
Right, all right, everybody. And the book is Play for 11 Leadership by Dr. Alvin Parker, head coach at Virginia Union University. Well, Coach, I will tell you, congratulations on your book and everything that you guys have going on. And I will tell you, if I don't, if I don't get to see the CIAA Media Day, good luck every week this season, except for I believe October 4th. Um, Minus that, but
I
I'm sure
got you.
I'm sure I'll see you down the road. Congratulations for everything you guys got going on, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, brother.